to welcome you to this roundtable where we will be looking at resilience and cooperation in cyber defense. We have a fantastic panel with us today. To my left, Rear Admiral Roca from the Spanish Cyber Command. Welcome. Just further down the road, we have General Roger de Montenon from the French Cyber Command. And just further, we have Michael Tik from Estonia joining us today. I will try to open the debate to questions, from the audience, although who knows, perhaps you have answers too. I will try to do so as soon as possible, so do please get your questions ready. But without much further ado, I will turn to our French panelist and ask you, General, what for you, in fact, is resilience? What are we talking about today? And what is resilience from a cyber defense perspective? And in addition, what are the main challenges to this resilience today?
Thank you. Happy to be here on behalf of General Tisser, who is my boss, the French cyber commander. He will be with us this afternoon. I've been the deputy commander for General Tisser for 2 years now. Resilience is a buzzword, definitely. We heard about it a lot during the COVID crisis because at first we were fearing that probably the COVID could take down our economy and probably much more. But you're right to say that it's a word that we heard that we hear frequently in the cyber domain because we have seen what cyber attacks can do to organizations. Truly take down a major company for weeks. But if you take it down a major company for weeks, this can incur losses in terms of $1 billion or at least $1 million. But we can think of much worse, actually. And there's always a fear of a cyber Pearl Harbor. I don't remember who used this expression first, but what would a cyber Pearl Harbor look like? It would look like something that would totally freeze an organization, maybe potentially up to a country. Maybe one of its vital functions, such as water delivery or energy or things like that. And in the military domain, which is our area of responsibility, it could be something like denying our use of any digitized weapon system. But nowadays, every weapon system is digitized, so every weapon system is vulnerable to an attack. And what can we think of as a major attack that would need resilience for? Things like not being able to use our radar system for air defense purposes, not being able to use our ground system, which are already and also interconnected. I mean, nowadays a tank is not just a tank, but also a weapon system that is digitized. It could go much worse. I mean, what if an enemy could actually deny our use of nuclear weapons on which our nuclear deterrence is based? So all these scenarios, obviously, we have them in mind. From the French perspective, the idea of a cyber Pearl Harbor is not the most likely scenario we're facing. We're not fully concerned about this scenario, but maybe we should be more concerned because I mean when you look at an attack like SolarWinds that happened last year in the US, you can tell that by reaching a key node, that's a key system that is actually used in a lot of different systems, then you can paralyze or if not paralyze, penetrate lots of different organizations. So this is a likely scenario. So now resilience, to address your question in a few words. I'm not really keen on doctrine, and I will not jump into a doctrinal context, but to me resilience would be the ability to ensure continuity of service despite a successful attack. So this continuity of service might include some service losses for very short periods of time, but nothing that could reach major consequences. In the military domain, in order to do that, first of all, we need to avoid major attacks. So we need to identify potential threats. We need to build the defensive tools that address these potential threats, and whenever an attack occurs, we need to have a rapid response. I mean, rapid response that will be first identifying that there is an attack, because sometimes we know that an attack can occur without us knowing before months, if not years. I mean, when you discover a malware on one of your systems that has been sleeping for years, definitely the attack was successful, even though it has only taken information from you and not prevented it from functioning. And then we need to respond by ensuring continuity of service. So in France we say remédiation. I don't know if the word exists in English. Remediation. It would basically mean repair the system. And then after you've repaired the system, then you can take other actions to make sure that the attack won't happen again. Maybe you will want to characterize the attack, know exactly which piece of malware attacked you, and maybe you will want to attribute the attack, so publicly denounce the attack and say, I've been attacked by this organization, it should be prosecuted, or I've been attacked by this state, and this state should be held responsible. To us, this very last piece of response, attribution, is a political process. It's not a military decision in France. And definitely it's a sovereign decision of a state to try to decide and denounce publicly an attack. That's our French approach to it. But definitely characterization is part of our responsibility and is something that, and I will finish here, we cannot do alone. So we need strong partnerships to exchange on the threat. And from our experience, building a cyber partnership starts with talking about threat. I mean, you cannot build a partnership starting by deciding to jointly attack an opponent. That's something that never happens in cyber. So you will start by saying, if you trust us enough to share information with us, then maybe we can start a cyber partnership. And then we face challenges. The first one is policy. Does the people the organization that we are talking to in a given country, like my colleagues here, do they have authority to decide to share information with us? And then the next challenge is which communication system we use to exchange information, because it will be classified. And frankly, it's always a nightmare when you want to try and exchange information with a foreign country on which communication system to choose.
No, maintenant ça marche. So, turning to you, perhaps, Admiral, and picking up on this concept of cooperation and perhaps more specifically trust. What's the vision from Madrid on this cooperation, which remains difficult for a whole number of issues?
Hi. Okay. First, I would like to thank you to all the audience for being here, and also to Pauline for your work to prepare this roundtable, and to the French Minister of Defense for inviting us every year. It's an honor for us to be here. We have excellent relations with France, and specifically with the French Cyber Command, and we want to improve it as well with Estonia. We have excellent relations. Well, like the General said, resilience classically is the 3 R, to resist, to recover, and to respond. But in my view, more important than that is the first letter, A, anticipate. For me, resilience is to stay ahead of the game, to plan in advance. Something that with the military we know pretty well with contingency plan, emergency plan. You have to have a plan B, a plan C. Why? Because in cyberspace, different from other domains, Navy, air, even ground, you cannot take for granted the basic of the proper domain. Why? Because it's a man-made domain, even the architecture, the infrastructure are all mostly owned for private company. So when the time comes, the moment of truth, you cannot take it for granted. It's like building a navy, and when you need it, your ships cannot go, cannot sail. So the more important for me for resilience is A, anticipate. When you talk about for collaboration, everyone agree that it's a must. No one can control the cyberspace by himself. No nation, no company. That's evident. But what is the main challenge or difference is that talking about the European Union, different countries have different visions, different perceptions, different sensitivities regarding cyberspace, cyber threat, how to handle it. So what happened? That it's difficult to have a unique doctrine, unique procedure, unique techniques, tactics, best practice, and even different countries, the way they handle the cyberspace and all the threats and risks are different. Someone is a unique national agency. Someone is like a France, in Spain, we are pretty similar. We have a military cyber command. Someone handled by the intelligence services. Someone by some agency with all the telecommunication. So it's different to address your proper partner in the other country. It's difficult to get a fast decision sometimes, and it's the main challenge that we have. And also, I have to say, sometimes you don't have the enough level of trust. It's easy to share, to train, and when you are talking about defensive capabilities. But when you are talking with intelligence capabilities, offensive capabilities is another thing. Like the general said, there are a lot of difficulties to accomplish that. And also different countries, there are a different ladder of development of the security. So it's the main challenge I see.
So I'm going to turn now to Mikkel Tiek from the Estonian Cyber Command. So in cyber, obviously, the line between military and civilian can very easily become blurred. General de Montenoy earlier spoke about potential impact on energy or water infrastructure. So with, if not enemies, at least adversaries, often targeting our civilian critical infrastructure, this has clear implications for our national security. So in your experience, where obviously Estonia has got quite extensive experience in this, how could Europe or how could the EU as a whole target this particular challenge?
Thank you, and first, thank you for inviting us here. It's a great event, and I think the weather is better than in January this time, so I'm happy to be here, and also stress that our cooperation with French Cyber Command and also Spanish Cyber Command is in really good shape. But coming to your question, Pauline, then I would say that for us, the same buzzwords that were mentioned, the resiliency and redundancy in that sense, are really important. And Estonia is a quite small country, so we made sure that everybody who's kind of patriotic-minded has an opportunity to participate in our cyber defense. Because every military scenario we have played in cyber intervenes with civilian cyber within 5 minutes. So there is no military cyber in our sense. There are specific weapon systems, but they are usually enclosed systems. But if we talk about kind of general C5 structure or something like that, then it's always intertwined with the civilian structure. So I think this is the main thing that everybody can learn from us. So we have made sure that all the civilian entities like organizations and also companies can report to Estonian Information Systems Authority, which is the governmental agency responsible for cybersecurity. We have a really good cooperation with them. We have built a voluntary platform for the experts to participate in cyber defense in a form of Estonian Cyber Defense League, which is kind of National Guard equivalent, let's put it this way. And those people are all those people have earned our trust, and we exchange with them information all the time. And we have made sure that we can do a command and control while integrating them into our defense. And they also represent some of the capabilities that militaries or governments are never able to own. In that sense, we do not simply have the money to pay them the salary. So, and there are specific areas like ICS systems, like maybe or some specific technologies where we bring them in as a reservist to support us. They have all the clearances to support us, and so this is how we have basically built our resilience. We all see in the different movies where there is this one guy who's very, very far, notices something that might end up as a Pearl Harbor in cyber. And we need to make sure that he's capable of actually contacting us and saying that I'm seeing something weird in these networks, you should look into that. And we can make sure that we put the picture together to see whether it's a larger campaign or a smaller campaign. So I think this model is definitely scalable, and I think a lot of the things that the EU is doing today is moving towards that same solution. Thank you.
I'm going to turn back now to General Montenon. As we all know, France will be taking over the rotating presidency of the EU Council next January. So what are the Cyber Command's priority for this key semester? Let's say, what do you hope to look back upon as achievements once it's all over?
So the good news is there is a cyber agenda within part of the French presidency of the EU agenda. And another good news is it will take in account inputs from other countries and from the EU staff. We see success in terms of military cyber for this presidency along 3 lines of efforts. The first one being laying down common concepts and doctrines. We need to be better at using the same words and sharing on how we address the cyber threat. The second line of effort will be capability developments. Is there any capabilities that we can jointly develop to save efforts and use synergies? And the last one will be developing the network of European military CERTs, those computer emergency response teams. The military CERTs are essential when addressing the threat, and if we are able to build a network, then we're definitely going to be better at preventing the attacks and also addressing them. So like I said, we will use the existing works and previous works done at the European level to take it further, and in this regard we are linking up with not only other countries who have recently been in charge of EU presidency or who will be, like Slovenia after us, but also the EU military staff, which we relate to and who is currently undertaking some major works of drafting 2 important documents, or 1 important document, the European Union Military Vision and Strategy on Cyberspace as a domain of operation, full domain of operation. This needs to be recognized at the EU military staff level, and because we're hopeful that this document will be issued before the end of this year, we can start from there to further our doctrinal discussion during the first semester of 2022. Regarding capability developments, we must acknowledge the fact that little has been done so far military-wise at the European level, but still there is, to us, a very interesting project led by Germany, which is a PESCO project, the CIDCC, Cyber and Information Domain Coordination Center. So according to our German friends who are leading this effort, this will be a hub for the sharing of information and addressing the threat from a European standpoint. Hopefully this will be closely connected to the EU military staff, so to be actually used in the framework of EU operations, but not only, also in peacetime, so to say. And we are so confident in this project that we recently switched from observer to member state of this PESCO project. We also hope that the EU can develop more command and control capabilities, and actually we were discussing that with senior representatives of the EU military staff this morning. We have a dream of an EU communication system on which we could speak to each other at classified levels, but we hope we see it in the near future. And finally, like I said, trying to connect and to build a network of military certs. And for this, we will not start from scratch. So there's a very interesting effort led by the European Defense Agency that has already organized some exercises. It's a process called the MIC. I don't remember what MIC stands for. So maybe my colleague can help me on that. Military Interoperability Conference. So basically it's a series of exercises led at two different levels, technical and then strategic, that try to interconnect on a voluntary basis the military certs in the EU. The last exercise happened in this spring. The next one will happen in Slovenia late 2021 or early 2022. And it will be followed by another one at strategic level in France by the end of next spring. And finally, I will point to an event that we will put together as part of our presidency. It's going to be a Cyber Commander Conference in Paris, late January of 2022. So we will throw invitations to all our European equivalents and try to work on an agenda that will be of interest to everyone.
Thank you very much. And as you know, the FIC always tries to contribute to these strategic thinking exercises. And in fact, tomorrow you will all discover a white paper written by the FIC's Agora, which is a forum for parliamentarians working on all things cyber. And this white paper really recommends a number of actions to be taken at both national and EU level in all things cyber and digital trust. And as you can imagine, cyber defense and cyber diplomacy are very much a feature of this. And it goes without saying that the next FIC, which hopefully will take place in June of 2022, we very much look forward to hearing your feedback on all of this. Before I ask my next question, I would just love to get a quick idea of how many questions the audience will have. We have a question there, a question there, a question there. Excellent. Then perhaps I will wait for my next questions and actually give the audience a chance. Perhaps we're very lucky to have with us today General White from the EUMS. So since we are discussing about EU matters, General, if you want to come in quickly, perhaps.
Bonjour, Madame, Monsieur. Je m'appelle.
My name is Brigadier General John White, and I'm the new Information Director on Cybersecurity and Communications in the EU.
Brigadier General Sean White. I'm the new Director of Communications, Information Systems and Cyber Defence of the EU military staff. I've only very recently taken up my appointment on the 1st of August this year, so I'm still reading myself into the job. I very much look forward to meeting and working with other EU colleagues, and certainly some of the issues that I spoke with my French colleague this morning in lending our support within the Directorate, within our means and capabilities to advancing that agenda during the French presidency. Thank you, Pauline.
Thank you very much. I'm going to turn now to Mr. Grégoire. If I can ask everyone to introduce themselves at the beginning of the question. Non, excusez-moi, mademoiselle, juste monsieur là. Merci. If you can stand up and introduce yourself. And I'm afraid you can't take the mic. She will have to hold it because COVID.
Okay. I am Jean-Louis Gergorin. I am teaching strategy at Sciences Po in Paris, and I'm a consultant, and I've been also writing on cyber defense, cyber security. My question is come back to what was said about the cyber Pearl Harbor. I think it was the Secretary of Defense Gates who first time mentioned that. And my question is the following: don't you think, generals, that what we are seeing is less a cyber Pearl Harbor than cyber guerrilla? Cyber guerrilla, guerrilla, cyber guerrilla, in the sense multiplicity, many cyber aggressions, cyber attacks that are below the threshold of open warfare as defined, for example, by NATO. By the way, the NATO summit mentioned that. The challenge created by multiple cyber attacks below the threshold of open warfare. And so the question is, how do you respond to that? How do you respond to cyber attacks against energy systems, major infrastructures? And we are seeing that. We are seeing implants, pre-positioned malwares that could be activated anytime by some forces. How do you respond to these threats that are more and more frequent from certain powers, as we all know?
Thank you very much. We're just going to take one more question, and then we'll come back to our speakers. Who had a question? Don't be shy now. Right there. Thank you.
Thank you. Romain Mielcarec, I'm a journalist for Radio France Internationale. I have two little questions. The first one is linked to the previous one. What can you share with us about the threats? Maybe without saying who, but maybe the evolution of the capabilities and that kind of things. Second question, I think that all of you have an issue with the lack of human resources available for those specialties. Do you know if your potential opponents have the same challenge? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So two excellent questions. Are we more talking cyber guerrilla warfare than cyber Pearl Harbor? And indeed, HR questions are absolutely key. And of course, the gentleman's question about threats. Admiral, why don't we start with you?
I think that NATO have made clear in the last summit that that you can respond to a cyber attack with any of the capability you have, not only in the cyberspace domain. So if you are attacked, you are under a cyber attack, you can respond with any capability. It can be in the ground domain, naval or airspace. Also, make clear that a continuous and intense cyber attack can be considered like a regular attack, Article 5, and you can call it an Article 5 and respond appropriate to that. So you can respond any one you consider appropriate, and we get a consensus. It will be my answer to that.
Cyber guerrilla, very interesting question and concept. I don't think we're in a cyber guerrilla. We are not facing cyber Pearl Harbors either. And this afternoon there's a roundtable around are we facing a cyber Cold War? Well, I would say neither. I think it's neither a Cold War nor a guerrilla. I think it's something totally new. It's a mix of everything, and we've never been in this situation, quite frankly. When we think guerrilla, we think French Indochina, French Algeria. We think a group of opponents that's deeply involved in the population that fights for its own interests through unconventional and asymmetric means such as terrorism. Well, some of our adversaries are doing this to us, but there are also some others are also at the same time doing what you just very rightly said. There are pre-positioning systems inside our systems that will sleep for a number of years and what will only be activated in terms of needs. And for this, you need more than a typical guerrilla would usually have. You need a strong state organization. You need research and the right human resources and everything. So why are we facing a mix of everything? It's because some of our adversaries are individual hackers who are attacking us for the purpose of becoming famous. Some are doing that for money, usually through ransomware, and there are groups of cyber criminals. Some are faking to be groups of cyber criminals, but actually working for a state organization. Some are state organizations. So we have to face all these opponents. And then how do we address the issue of pre-positioned system? Well, we definitely try to identify them. And when we don't always publicize the fact that we have, because then the enemy would know, and we like him to think that he has kept an advantage on us, which is no longer active. So that's how we address the threat. Obviously, all of this is kept quite confidential. How do we characterize attacks? I think I've addressed the question pretty much. And then what type of human resources? Are we short of the right human resources? Yes. I mean, not so far. We've been quite attractive so far, but we're growing at a pace that we request a lot of new people. And I think it's a commonly shared concern amongst the French government and private companies that our French school systems probably is not producing enough cyber technicians, cyber engineers, and we need to produce more. But so far, we've been efficient at recruiting and retaining people. Some are with us for just because they want to work for the government and to serve their country. Some want to have a good line on their CV. Some want to use tools that they will never use outside the military world. Some are here for money, and we are not that ridiculous when first hiring people. We can be competitive with the private sector, not so much after a few years, but initially. So a mix of this. And then do our adversaries face the same issue? They usually don't share this information with us. We hope that yes.
Thank you so much. So I'll turn to Michael Tick. Indeed, we had quickly discussed the labor issue on the phone, but do please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So I would say that our adversaries are really opportunistic. So I'm kind of saying additional things that already been said. So from one point, they are opportunistic. When they see a vulnerability, they might not even want to use it, but they still take advantage of it. So we've seen what happened 2015 in Ukraine. I think kind of similar attack on a Western country would impose different kind of consequences. And this is not a military issue anymore. This will probably end up going through different channels and invoke Article 4 or 5. At the same time, I would say how to protect ourselves from that is to build a kind of whole of society comprehensive cyber security system, which kind of enables us to also support those companies who are probably the targets, and also change our attitude from reactive to proactive. So time to time in Estonia, we do this kind of we go and hunt for specific kind of vulnerabilities in our own networks, in the civilian networks and also in the military networks. So we would kind of have this advantage that we would actually find them. So these are, I think, those two really important things, because we can't also man all the positions to kind of protect our ecosystem. So we have to basically take those people from the civilian side or from the other governmental organizations, make them part of a kind of a community, so we can actually use them, because every system is kind of unique, and you can't basically go like as a government agent or agency or even a military agency. You can't go into a specific kind of electricity plant and start looking something from there without knowing the system. So you have to involve those people and make sure, like I said, so they have a reasonable way to how to contact with us to ask further information, whether we have this information, because governments tend to also have more information than they share for several reasons why they don't share it right away. But, and also I can't comment on how much personnel issues other side or criminals or even other nations have. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to open the floor to the audience in a minute, but I'm going to shamelessly abuse my power as a moderator to ask one further question. I think a lot of people would agree that close cooperation, or at least cooperation with industrial partners, is key to improving our cyber capabilities. I wonder whether any of you can share any specific best practices that you've identified in your own experience, and perhaps let us know how you feel that recent EU initiatives, be it PESCO or the upcoming European Defence Fund, whether these are headed the right way to support this public-private cooperation, or at least this cooperation between the military and industrial partners who create these capabilities. But before you answer, I will open up the floor again, so please do throw your hands up. The lady in the front, and then the gentleman in the back there. Thank you.
Yes, hello. I'm head of Telefonica in France, and I wonder, you were mentioning, General, the tools. I wonder about the solutions. Most of the solutions that we use, I work with multinationals. Most of the solutions are US-driven. We also see some French players, of course, but how do you find tools that each of the European states trusts?
I believe there was a gentleman in the back. If you can just raise your hand, thank you. And stand up so the speakers can see you, that'd be lovely.
Morning. As you all agree, you need me to introduce myself. I'm Hugo Malamer, apprentice from Airbus Cybersecurity. As you all agree, cooperation starts by sharing information. The thing is, do you currently sharing information regarding new threats that you can find on the cyberspace, even though like it involve your own vulnerability? And the second question will be, don't you think that the process in military and even the state and the country will make you lose time, and in fact, you will never be able to be ahead, as you said, you know, in the cyberspace threats? Thank you.
Just to make sure I understood your second question, you're saying that international cooperation slows response time. Is that what I'm understanding? European. Okay, excellent. And this is incredible because I asked a question about cooperation with industrial partners, and we have Telefonica and Airbus coming in, so it's fantastic. Michael, why don't we start with you?
Thank you for the questions. So I will start with PESCO and the EDF. So even if we do not kind of govern this, it will actually help us anyway. So we've already seen that the EDF funds that have been already kind of issued, those have also kind of also streams are going into cybersecurity, because all the industry kind of players understand that their systems need to be secure as well. So basically they are hiring different cybersecurity companies, which actually kind of enhances our knowledge. And like I said, in Estonian system, we tend to keep links with them, so it actually feeds back to us as well. So, but fortunately, it is a bit governed. So I would say that those formats, the EDF definitely helps, and also PESCO has several cyber initiatives, which, if they succeed, very good. When they don't, we have really good lessons identified from those processes anyway. You asked about the tools, what everybody could trust, and the young man there said that the over kind of bureaucracy slows us down. The main tool today used for information exchange in cyber community is a chat room. So basically everything goes instantly. We do not usually hide IOCs, we hide the context. We do not hide the IOCs. So basically this information travels really fast. And at the end of the day, I would say those tools are experts themselves. Those are human beings who we start trusting. We haven't built any of those kind of corporations, at least today, on bilateral level, based on tools, but based on the expert communities. So basically we have, like in everywhere, we have this trusted person embedded, or the community is kind of governed by us. And this is the challenge, because at the end of the day, I think nobody understands whether cyber is like the kind of normal domain or it's a kind of intelligence domain, so it's intermixed, so we have a lot of people who kind of won't talk to each other before they have actually seen each other. So this is definitely a challenge for us. But at the end of the day, we are taking the information from all the same sources, so basically those tools are already there, and we are definitely using the same tools anyway. Thank you.
Short answers. Best practices on how we cooperate with industry. We have one in France. We try to make sure that the defense contractors, the defense industry is involved in cybersecurity. And our Minister of Defense signed a convention with the major industrial partners of the French MOD to try and make sure that they include cybersecurity as early at the conception stage of a weapon system. And that in response, the French government, the French Minister of Defense provides them with help to sustain their cybersecurity effort. There's still a lot to be done, and especially when we think of developing tools, we should always think of what the industry can already provide. There is actually a story in the news that's on my mind when thinking about that. The Pegasus case was all over the news this summer. I will not comment on it. I will just use it as a fictional scenario. If it is true that a civilian company or a private contractor can sell tools to countries who do not have the capabilities to develop these tools by themselves in order to spy on other countries, then it's very serious, and we cannot ignore what the civilian sector can provide, and we cannot be the only ones, the state, the government, to develop new tools. Can we build up a mechanism to trust tools at the European level? It's a very hard question. We wish we were able to do that. I think this question should be more asked to ANSSI, the French civilian CERT, because it's more their line of responsibility. But I think it is clear that when looking at technologies like 5G, you can tell that there's not yet a European response to that, and not yet the right mechanism developed at the European level. Do we already share information with partners? Yes, of course. We don't tell who and what kind of information, but we do. Is there a mechanism at European level to do the same? There is the premises of it and the will to do more.
I will explain the experience in Spain. What I think it works pretty well. We have 3/3 computer medicine responding at the national level. One for military, for national defense, the one we're in charge. Another third for all the administration, to the state, regional, and local administration. And the third one is for private companies. And we work in the forum of the National Council of Cybersecurity. We work almost on a daily basis. Every time there's an incident, no matter who, we work together, 3/3. And we create, in order to improve the public and private cooperation, we created last year a forum, a national forum for public and private cybersecurity, where any company can tell any initiative, and we work together to do that. And the main objective for the first year is to create law, norms, procedure, methods with the private company. In fact, they put the muscle, because they have a lot of people, and maybe we have the competence to go to make that a law, and we have that competence, but they put the muscle, and they are working group, tiger teams, and we work together, and it's working pretty well. Well, a tool, I think that we are used to work together. We have institutions that have worked together for years, decades. We have institutions, infrastructure that join together. I don't think we had to create new tools. We have enough tools to work together. The only thing we need is maybe more will. But I don't see there is something missing. We have so many.
At least some French providers, and of course Spanish, like Panda or others. Are there, from what you see, are there some of these players who have a European scope so that you can, all of you, use them and trust them?
Yes, you are talking about like defending European industry, no? You say yes. I think, in fact, is kind of in Spain we're doing similar. We prefer national industry that mostly the one we have is coming from US, no? So we're trying to change to have some kind of autonomy, no? Strategic autonomy. But yes, it makes sense.
One of the key issues is, of course, if you ask the 27 EU member states what strategic autonomy is, you'll probably get 36 answers. So that's one of the issues that we have. So I still have a couple of questions, but I would like to see a show of hands for a last round. We still have 11 minutes. We have a gentleman there. Last chance. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Et ben voilà. If you could stand up, sir.
No worries. Hi, I'm Dieter Stroomans from Business Intelligence Services at Buns Consulting. So I have a few questions. So first of all, when you look at the current, for instance, Russian and Chinese capabilities in cyber defense and offense, how do you see the perceived imbalance or strategic imbalance in regards to European forces? A sub-question of this is, for instance, when you look at cyber offensive capabilities, is it something which is considered taboo in the European defense community? Or is it something which is being talked of, especially when one sees the ambition of the French presidency of the European Council? Is this something which could be considered, not necessarily now, but in the long term? A second question would be regarding European protectionism, for instance, towards Chinese threats. When you look at the recent European FDI screening framework, which I think we can all agree was indirectly directed at Chinese investments, for instance, with information warfare, which is closely related to cyber warfare. Do you consider this as a potential jumping bridge or a potential waking up moment for European partners towards foreign threats, for instance, coming from China or other partners? And then a third question, I'm sorry, I'm reading from my notes, is how would you trigger interest? Because you've mentioned patriotism at the beginning of your presentation, General. How do you think you could trigger interest from young patriots or individuals who are motivated by other motivations to join the skill gap or the recruitment gap which you have addressed? Thank you.
So much. One last chance. Okay, I'm going to throw my last question in the ring then, which is, how far are we in terms of a common European doctrine in terms of cyber defense? Do we in fact even need one? Do we need a common doctrine really? And we spoke of we all know about the strategic compass coming up. Is this a step in the right direction? Well, so, but of course, if you all want to answer the gentleman's questions about China, Admiral, why don't we start with you?
The easy one. Well, I think we really needed a common doctrine in Europe. I used to associate the cyberspace domain to all the domain we're used to, like in this case, like the air domain. I flew from Spain yesterday, and at the beginning, from takeoff, the aircraft was controlled by a Spanish controller. Then they changed to French controller. They changed their doctrine. There's no problem. It's the same. It will be hard to defend the opposite. We don't need a doctrine. Every country can do whatever they want. It will be difficult because you don't know when you are under attack, you don't know where it's coming from, and you need cooperation. So it's that easy one. And about how to attract, young people to come to our command. We see the cyber command, in general, the defense. We are another tool of the state to protect the security, stability, and so on. So what we want is a soldier. We want soldiers that it will fight in the cyberspace domain, but we don't want a cyber warrior. We want soldiers. We will train them. We will give the tools to fight in the cyber domain in coordination with the other domain to fulfill the mission that that commander or that operation has, period. So we want soldiers. If you want to become a soldier, come with us. If you want to become a cybersecurity responsible from a company, go to there. So right now we are not afraid of training them, and after so many years go to the civilian side. We are not afraid of that because they will be working in the same arena. They will defend the good things, the good side in another arena. It's no problem. The only thing is, like any other company, it will provide them information. They will have to stay with us like the pilot. I train you like a fighter pilot. You need to have with the Air Force 5 years. So after 5 years, you are free to go. No problem. The problem is that we don't lose the knowledge. Maybe we lose the person, the talent, but not the knowledge. That is our problem, how we manage the knowledge. But you're free to go.
Michael, take over to you. I don't know if you want to take the China question.
No, thank you. Obviously, since I'm in military, so I will leave this question to the politicians. So it's not my cup of tea anymore, fortunately. So, but coming to a kind of interesting question, which was related to the workforce retention and interesting young people, then Estonia is still. We have a reserve army. We are reserve-based. We have a reserve-based army system, which means that we also have conscription, and we have made sure that all those young people who possess talents in the ICT or STEM areas can join Estonian Cyber Command. They will remain our reservists for coming years, and like my Spanish colleagues just said, we don't, even if they go to the civilian structures, then we don't lose them. They still have a reach back to us, but we do get like 8 to 10% of our recruits from this program. So it means that we get those talents for 11 months. We can kind of work with them, so they would be interested in joining us. So this is Estonian kind of approach today, which has worked for us really well. There are some other nations here who have the same kind of system, who can recruit from there. And all the other questions I will leave to the general.
You have the easy task of those easy questions.
Short answers to 4 questions. Do we need a European doctrine? Yes, very much so. If we want to have any ability to cooperate, we need at least to use the same taxonomy and make sure that we're using the right words. And then it should also address how we provide cyber defense for European military missions, for instance. Is there a possibility for European offensive capabilities someday? We don't see it coming anytime soon. I mean, offensive capabilities are a very sovereign topic, and no, it's not a matter of the year, at least. I will not comment on what you said about China. Like my colleague said, it's too political. And then how can we trigger interest to young people, to more people to come and join us, apart from patriotism, interest of the job, financial incentive. Well, I think we have 2 leverages here, but one thing we're looking at is career passes, original career passes. We have to accept the fact that a lot of our cyber warriors will come and join us for a short period of time, maybe 5, 6 years, and then they will move to private sector. But I think we need to think of possibilities of them staying in contact with us even after they join the private sector? Would it be in reserve or something? And then potentially coming back to us when they are in their midlife crisis and want to have a sense of purpose, for instance.
Thank you very much. I'm not a China expert, so I won't take that question, and it would be less interesting than what they'd have to say behind closed doors anyway. Listen, it remains for me to say a great big thank you to our three speakers. I thought these were really, really interesting remarks and interesting discussion. Thank you to our audience. I think the coming months will certainly be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how far the sort of acceleration in digitalization that's been not brought about by COVID, but that has been made clearer to the general public by COVID, will evolve. And yet at the same time, I think COVID will certainly have an impact on public finances. And so it remains to see what that does to both our military and our civilian cybersecurity forces. I hope you enjoy the rest of the FIC. Do keep an eye out for our white book tomorrow morning to be published during the Agora. I wish you a great stay in Lille. Bye-bye.